Imagine having like 15 years of really hard-earned life experience.
Right, where you can run a whole team or, solve complex logistical problems.
Exactly. You can manage tight budgets, you have all this practical knowledge, but you are completely locked out of the modern economy. And, well, why?
Because you don't have the quote-unquote right piece of paper.
Yeah, you don't have a traditional university degree.
It's just, it's the ultimate paradox of the modern workforce, I think.
Hmm.
We constantly hear society say it values experience, right?
Oh, all the time.
But the systems governing hiring and compensation, they are almost entirely built to validate formal, traditional credentials. So if you miss that window to get a degree at like 22,
The doors just stay closed.
to say completely closed, yeah.
And that locked door represents just a massive loss of human potential. So welcome to today's deep dive, where we're pulling from a really fascinating stack of materials to look at how an entire nation is attempting to pick that exact lock.
Yeah, it's a great stack today. We're looking at a UNESCO-backed report by the Commonwealth Tertiary Education Facility on Malaysia's economy.
Right, and we're blending that with corporate literature from a group called Think Plus ESG, and also a really eye-opening transcript detailing literal blockchain code being used on sustainable farms.
Which I know sounds disparate, like agriculture and university reports, but they are all tackling the exact same mission.
So what is that mission for anyone listening who's new to this?
Basically, Malaysia is attempting to radically rewrite the rules of education, credentials, and economic participation. They're trying to figure out how to capture and validate experiential knowledge to create true economic dignity for marginalized groups.
And they are doing it by combining sweeping national policies with some incredibly cutting-edge decentralized technologies. It's wild.
It really is. But before we can really understand the solutions being built, we kind of have to look at the structural bottlenecks in the workforce that make this massive shift necessary in the first place.
Yeah, let's look at the demographic reality laid out in the 2019 data from that UNESCO-backed report. So Malaysia has a population of 32.6 million people,
Right?
but the labor participation rate hovers around just 68.7%.
And when you dig into the people who actually are participating, you hit what economists call a skills mismatch,
Which is a huge problem.
a massive problem. The data shows a staggering 62.3% of the Malaysian workforce is stuck in the semi-skilled category.
Over 60%? Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, only 24.4% are classified as skilled. That means nearly two-thirds of the country's workforce is basically trapped in economic purgatory.
Meaning they have fundamental skills, but no official pathway to move up.
Exactly. No official pathway to higher-paying specialized roles. And the most alarming part of the report is that new job vacancies are overwhelmingly reinforcing this trap.
Oh, so new jobs aren't helping.
Not at all. The highest number of new jobs being created are right back in that semi-skilled tier.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I like to think of the traditional education system as a narrow staircase, right?
Right.
Or even a one-way toll road.
I like the coal road analogy. Yeah.
Right, so you get on the highway in primary school, you pay your tolls, and you're supposed to take the single off-ramp that leads to a university degree and a skilled career.
But if you miss that one-way on-ramp at age 18,
Or if life circumstances just force you to pull over.
yeah, then you are stuck navigating the side streets forever.
Exactly. This system simply has no mechanism to let you back on the highway halfway through your life. That one-way toll road perfectly explains this massive bottleneck in the semi-skilled labor force.
And, the historical and policy context behind this toll road is crucial for understanding why Malaysia is pushing so hard for change right now.
Right, going back to the 70s.
Exactly. Following ethnic riots in 1969, the government introduced the new economic policy in 1970. This introduced affirmative action to address deep socioeconomic and geographic divides.
And just a quick note for the listener, we are simply reporting on the history and policies as they're detailed in our sources today. We aren't endorsing or taking any political stance on affirmative action or these specific initiatives. We're just trying to convey the context the report provides.
Absolutely. And over the decades, that policy approach evolved. By the time we get to recent national strategies, like the 11th Malaysia Plan, the focus has shifted heavily towards specific marginalized groups.
Like the B40, right?
Yes, the B40, which stands for the bottom 40% of households by income. They also heavily target persons with disabilities or PWDs and marginalized indigenous groups like the Orang Asli.
The report also points out a really interesting paradox regarding women in Malaysia, too.
Oh, right, the education gap.
Yeah. Women actually have very high educational attainment in the country, but their labor market participation remains disproportionately low compared to men.
So you end up with this massive pool of potential talent women. The B40, indigenous groups, persons with disabilities who are either outside the workforce entirely or trapped in that 62% semi-skilled bubble.
Which is just terribly inefficient.
Well, the urgency to fix this isn't just about social equity either. It is a hard economic mandate.
Because of the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Exactly, often referred to as 4IR. The economic demands are shifting rapidly toward artificial intelligence, cyber-physical systems, robotics, big data, all of that.
So if a national economy requires that level of agility, a one-way educational toll road isn't just outdated.
No, it's a massive economic liability. The system has to find ways to validate and upskill the B40 and disabled populations, or the country's transition to a high-income, tech-driven economy will completely stall out.
Which means they had to build new on-ramps.
Precisely.
Because if the traditional learn-then-work pipeline is failing these groups, national policy had to find a way to let people re-enter the system at different elevations.
And that brings us to the Malaysia Education Blueprint for Higher Education, which spans 2015 to 2025.
The MEBHE, right?
Yeah, and its stated goal is to create a nation of lifelong learners. To achieve this, the government implemented FLPs, or flexible learning pathways.
Which includes things like open distance learning and massive open online courses, right?
It does, but the fundamental backbone of this entire initiative is the APEL system. That stands for Accreditation of Prior Experiential Learning.
Okay, so APEL is where the paradigm really shifts, because it officially recognizes that learning doesn't just happen in a lecture hall.
Right, it happens on a factory floor, in a corporate office.
Or running a household or managing a community project. And APEL comes in two main flavors, according to the report.
Yep, access and credit.
Right. First, there's APEL-A, for access. This allows an adult learner who, say, doesn't have a formal high school diploma to use their work experience to gain direct admission into a university program.
Which is huge for getting back on that highway. And then you have APEL-C for credit. This is for someone who might already be entering a university program, but they have years of experience in a specific subject.
Can you give an example of how that works?
Sure. So if you've been managing corporate accounting for 10 years and finally go back for a business degree, APEL for credit allows you to completely bypass the introductory accounting courses.
So your life experience is literally converted into academic currency.
Exactly.
But wait, how does a university actually measure 10 years of accounting experience? Like, do you just walk in, tell them you know what you're doing, and take a multiple choice test on corporate finance?
I mean, I wish it were that easy, but no, it's far more rigorous than that, which is where the mechanics get interesting. Applicants typically have to build a really comprehensive portfolio.
Oh, so it's a whole documented process.
Yeah, they map their real-world projects, their performance reviews, their tangible outputs directly to the learning outcomes of the university syllabus.
That sounds intense.
It is. They might have to undergo challenge tests or sit for interviews with faculty panels who probe their theoretical understanding of the practical work they've been doing.
Well, the UNESCO-backed report provides a fascinating contrast in how this plays out structurally by looking at two very different institutions.
Right, UITM and WOU.
Yeah, on one hand you have University Technology ARA, or UITM. This is a massive traditional public university with a very long history of serving disadvantaged students.
But they had to retrofit these flexible pathways into a pre-existing, highly conventional academic structure, right?
Exactly. And on the other hand, you have Wawasan Open University, WOU. This is a private institution built from the ground up, specifically for non-traditional working adults.
So their entire institutional DNA is built around flexible distance learning.
Yeah, so they approach the exact same national policy with a completely different level of agility.
But wait, let's play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
If you're a single mother working 2 jobs, or a person with a learning disability from the B40 income bracket, building a massive portfolio and sitting for panel interviews sounds like just another massive roadblock.
Oh, totally.
Are they just replacing one rigid academic hoop with a differently shaped academic hoop?
Well, you've hit on the exact flaw the researchers found in the report. At the institutional level, the implementation of these pathways often devolves into an exercise in pure compliance.
Compliance over creativity.
Exactly. Universities get so bogged down in standardizing the assessments and satisfying regulatory audits that there is very little room for real creativity in how experience is measured.
So it basically just becomes a bureaucratic checklist.
Yeah, which completely defeats the purpose of being quote-unquote flexible.
So the policy intention is there, but the bureaucratic friction is totally overwhelming.
The report explicitly highlights this. Malaysia desperately needs more innovative instruments. For example, they point out that the aptitude exams used for university admissions need to be specifically adapted for persons with disabilities.
Right, you can't just force non-traditional learners through standardized testing loops and call the system inclusive.
Exactly. The report heavily recommends shifting toward inclusive, open educational resources, or OER, rather than relying on standard university curricula.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
I love when it gets interesting.
Because if the formal higher education system is struggling to validate marginalized learners due to all this bureaucratic compliance, we have to look at how people are bypassing the university entirely.
Right, the alternative routes.
Yeah. To see how people are proving their worth without a campus, we literally have to look at the dirt, the water, and the blockchain.
Yes. This is perhaps the most radical application of credentialing in our source material. We are looking at a project called PWD Smart Farmability.
Which operates in collaboration with the Sustainable Business Network Association, right? So SNET.
Correct. The core mission of this project is to empower the disabled community who are known in Malaysia as the OKU community. And they are doing this through regenerative urban farming.
Specifically aquaponics, right?
Yeah, aquaponics. And for those unfamiliar, it's a highly sustainable closed-loop system. You raise fish in tanks, and the nutrient-rich waste from the fish is pumped into garden beds to fertilize vegetables.
So the plants filter the water, which is then sent back to the fish.
Exactly. It's a delicate, highly technical ecosystem to maintain.
And on the surface, it's a wonderful social enterprise, just great community work. But the technological breakthrough here is what they call the Dignity Ledger.
The Dignity Ledger. I love that name.
It's brilliant. They are using blockchain technology to redefine what a social enterprise can achieve. They're creating a system of radical trust that operates on three main pillars, completely sidestepping traditional credentialing.
Okay, let's walk through those pillars. The first one is enhanced traceability.
Right, and how this works mechanically is incredible. They use IoT Internet of Things sensors in the aquaponics tanks.
Just tracking everything.
Tracking everything. These sensors track water pH, power usage, temperature, every single regenerative step the farmer takes, from applying organic compost to verifying the produce, has zero chemical status. It's all logged.
Logged as an immutable digital record on the blockchain.
Exactly. So when a customer is at the market, they can literally scan a QR code on that vegetable, see its full verified journey in real time, and willingly pay a premium price.
And that premium goes directly toward increasing the income of the OKU entrepreneur.
Direct impact, which leads right into the second pillar, digital credentials.
Because all this sensor data is stored permanently.
Yes. The farmer's expertise in regenerative soil and water management isn't just an empty claim on a paper resume. It becomes a portable, verifiable digital asset.
So they are building a live digital portfolio of their competencies just by doing their daily work.
Exactly. This record of hard work attracts ethical buyers, but it also creates the foundation for these farmers to eventually participate in global carbon credit markets.
Okay, so it's literally a verified digital resume baked directly into a head of lettuce.
Baked into a head of lettuce. I love that.
You don't need a university to issue you a certificate in sustainable agriculture because the sensors and the blockchain are perfectly verifying your competence in real time every single day.
And if we connect this back to the bigger picture of the workforce trap we discussed earlier, the third pillar is where the magic really happens. Automated rewards.
Ah, the smart contract.
Right. The blockchain utilizes smart contracts, which is just a piece of code that says, if this happens, then execute that.
Right.
So if a sensor detects that a farmer has maintained optimal water and power usage in their aquaponics system for a month, the smart contract automatically executes and distributes cryptocurrency incentives directly to that farmer's digital wallet.
So there are no middlemen. There are no grant administrators or university compliance committees taking a cut or slowing down the process.
None. It creates what the sources describe as a self-verifying, digitally empowered economic loop.
It solves the exact problem the universities are struggling with.
Yes. The universities are trying to figure out how to verify experiential learning through committee meetings and portfolio reviews. The Dignity Ledger does it instantly.
And it ties the validation of skills directly to economic compensation and human dignity, validating the individual based purely on their proven real-world output.
It's honestly inspiring.
It really is. But verifying a farmer's skills on the blockchain is brilliant, but it's just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah, how does it scale?
Exactly. How does this kind of decentralization work in a corporate office? Like, how do you get a job consulting or managing a team without a degree?
Which brings us to our final source today, looking at how corporate and entrepreneurial training is merging with this new concept of lifelong learning.
Right. This is where we examine Think Plus ESG and their RAFIDAH School of Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, they are offering a model that completely sidesteps the traditional four-year university degree. Instead, they focus on targeted CPD continuing professional development hours and highly specific professional certifications.
We're talking about certifications from the Global Academy of Finance and Management and ISO 20024 certifications for ESG and sustainability impact consultants.
And just for context, ISO standards are essentially the gold standard of global standardization.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting an ISO-aligned certification means your skills are recognized by industries worldwide. But the mechanics of how you earn these credentials under this model is wild.
Yeah, you don't sit in a lecture hall reading 10-year-old case studies.
No, you earn these credentials through incredibly diverse real-world project modules. The list of modules in their literature is staggering.
It's all over the map, right?
Completely. You can earn your credentials by building projects in artificial intelligence or developing payment gateways, but you can also earn them through black soldier fly farming
Wow, okay.
or running a sustainable halal certification process, operating a beauty and health spa, or even managing branded coffee outlets in Iran.
It's just completely modular, and the Think Plus Academy integrates coaching directly into their executive master and diploma programs.
So the coaching isn't theoretical.
No, it is immediately applied to the actual business project you are building. You're learning the accounting principles while you are literally balancing the books for the coffee outlet.
Which brings us back to a fundamental question about the nature of knowledge itself.
What does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, knowledge is most valuable when it is understood and applied. The RAFIDAH model, much like the Dignity Ledger on the farms, represents the ultimate form of a flexible pathway.
Because under this model, your school isn't a campus.
Right. Your school is an actual hypermarket, a recycling initiative, a poultry farm in Kenya, or a digital transformation startup.
And your diploma isn't a piece of parchment. It is a live, verified record of your actual environmental, social, and business impact.
If you're listening to this and wondering how it applies to your own career or, your own hiring practices, the takeaway is massive.
We are looking at the total dismantling of that one-way toll road.
Exactly.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, we've explored how Malaysia is tackling a massive demographic challenge, a workforce trapped in semi-skilled labor, by basically rewriting the rules of access.
We've seen the national policy attempts with university APEL credits, which allow people to translate sweat equity into academic currency.
Even if those universities still wrestle with bureaucratic compliance.
Very true. And we've seen the cutting edge, where agricultural blockchains and modular corporate micro-credentials are validating human potential in real time, completely without the ivory tower.
The trajectory here is undeniable. The future of learning is modular, it is deeply experiential, and above all, it has to be inclusive.
We are seeing IoT sensors and smart contracts perfectly verify a disabled farmer's regenerative agriculture skills, translating that directly into income and professional standing without a single university administrator involved.
It leaves us with a really profound thought to mull over.
What's that?
Well, as these decentralized technologies mature, and as real-world impact becomes easier to track, how long will it be before traditional university degrees are entirely replaced by decentralized ledgers of our actual problem solving?
Oh, wow. Are we currently witnessing the end of the traditional resume?
That's the question. If you have 15 years of hard-earned life experience, the door might still be locked today. But we might not even need the paper key tomorrow.
It's an exciting future.
It really is. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.